If I sit down, y'all won't be able to see me. How's it going, guys? I'm Tyler. I'm an alcoholic. I appreciate your lead there, Jason. I could relate a lot to it. BJ Boost saved my life. So anytime I speak in front of a crowd from Lebanon, it hits me a little bit different than it does everywhere else. So I'm grateful. There's also some people who know my story from real live experience in this room today, and not just from this podium. So they could probably validate some of it. And I can assure you that it got a lot worse from then. So, but my sobriety date is February 14th of 2014. I got sober on Valentine's Day. It wasn't because I had a heartbreak. It was because I got arrested for the last time, and that's just the way it was. My last drink was on the 13th, so I consider Valentine's Day my sobriety date. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of drunk logs. I think you guys know how we get here. But one of the things I wanted to do a little differently, because I'm also like Jason, you give me an hour to speak about myself, I'll thrive. You give me 30 minutes or a topic to speak on and put me in a box, I'm an alcoholic. I don't like rules. So what I thought I would do is we had a meeting last night out here in Gallatin at Searchers, and we read A Vision for You. A Vision for You is probably one of my favorite chapters because when I got here at 23 years old, I didn't relate to a lot of the other stuff at first. It was in a type of language from the 30s. I'm young, you guys are old, and most of you love Jesus, and I wanted nothing to do with it. And so when I started to go through the book with my sponsor, who's a man about a program of action, one of the first things he read to me was the 10 step promises, and we got busy right away. And he helped me to relate and to identify in the book. But A Vision for You kind of broke down my story in a real simple way. When I started drinking, I loved it. It meant connection with people. It talked about conviviality, colorful imagination, whatever. I just liked the way it made me fucking feel. Drinking made me feel good. My whole life I felt, and I've got a whole lot of part to my story, but I deal with a lot of abandonment and fear issues of not being good enough. And when I started drinking, I don't remember the first time I drank, but I do remember the first time that I felt that feeling from head to toe and giggled like a little schoolgirl and was throwing up sick for a couple of days and just jumped right back on to do it again. That's what I wanted to do. And I'm going to go to this page here so that I can kind of follow along and be respectful of your guys' time this afternoon. And thanks to the host committees that have put this on. It's a fantastic event. So it talked about the free of care, boredom, and worry, and the joyous intimacy with friends, and the feeling that life is good. Again, I just like to get screwed up, right? It made me feel good. And I've heard people say it made me dance better, feel taller, look better, whatever. But I heard somebody say one time that it made them feel just right. And that's what alcohol did for me. And I didn't know until I got into this program that what I was chasing in the bottle my entire life was this feeling of unconditional love and being a part of and feeling good enough. And I felt the opposite of that my entire life. So there was this insistent yearning to enjoy life as we once did, and a heartbreaking obsession that some new miracle of control would enable us to do it. There was always one more attempt and one more failure. The less people tolerated us, the more we withdrew from society and from life itself. And this is, Bill's words are super powerful, and that's another reason I like this reading here. But as we became subjects of King Alcohol, shivering denizens of his mad realm, the chilling vapor that is loneliness settled down. I had a lot of fucking consequences. I've been to jail over 23 times. I spent the last 2 years of my juvenile life in a group home because I ran my truck on top of a police car drunk selling drugs. And so I had a lot of jail and consequences and lost, broken relationships with family and all this stuff, the financial issues, legal issues, whatever. But for me, our book talks about alcoholics experiencing loneliness as few do. And I had gotten to a place where I could be in a room full of my friends or my people and feel absolutely alone. And I felt like that a whole lot of part of my life. I felt like everybody had this design for living that I just wasn't given, and God gave me a shitty hand of cards. And with my abandonment and not being good enough issues, it wasn't that I didn't believe in God. I didn't think I was good enough for God. And so it goes on to say it thickened, ever becoming blacker. It got darker and darker and darker for me. And then it goes on to the four horsemen, the terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. I mean, that's the perfect terror, fear. My whole life was driven by self-centered fear, but then throw in the alcohol. At the end there, it was like the fear of, where am I going to get it today? How am I going to get it today? What's going to happen if I don't get it today? Because my whole life revolved around that feeling. I didn't work my alcohol around my life. My life had to work around my alcoholism. But the last thing that I wanted to be was a drunk, because I'm 23 and y'all are a bunch of old white dudes and ladies, right? There was a lot fewer younger people in Alcoholics Anonymous, at least where I was, outside of the halfway house and some immediate connections that I made in recovery when I got here. And I didn't want to be that. So I identified as a drug addict on purpose, because I didn't want to be you, Austin, you know? But then the bewilderment, right? The bewilderment of not just waking up foggy every day, but just the confusion of like, what's my role in this life? Why don't I have a purpose? What's the point? The just confusion of who I am or what I'm supposed to be. What's the point? And then the frustration of, why can't I? Why can't I be like everybody else? Why do I have to be a slave to alcohol? You know, why me? And then the despair, the complete hopelessness, right? We recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I didn't recover from alcoholism. I'll always be an alcoholic. But what I did recover from is a little bit of hope, and that I am good enough and I can get this thing. But God had to work through you people to show me that. And so then we go on to just about the sufficient substitute, but before that, it talks about Tyler whistling in the dark. I was at that jumping off place where I couldn't imagine life without alcohol anymore, because it got me through my day every day. But I couldn't imagine it without it either. Like, it was just this back and forth battle in my soul of like, what am I supposed to do? So I got to that place of, fuck it, just kill myself. But I didn't have the courage to do that either, you know? So we have shown we have got out from under. You say, yes, I'm willing, but am I to be consigned to a life where I shall be stupid, boring, and glum, like some righteous people I see? I know I must get along without liquor, but how? Well, I have a sufficient substitute. And when I say this, I want to be very clear that this is not my solution to alcoholism. It's my substitute for this feeling of loneliness, this despair, this bewilderment, this fear, this terror, right? Is, yes, there is a substitute, and it's vastly more than that. It is a fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. There you will find release from care, boredom, and worry. This is my favorite line in the book. Your imagination will be fired. Life will mean something at last, and the most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead. When I first read that, it gave me hope, but I got to stick around long enough to experience some of the most satisfactory years of my existence in Alcoholics Anonymous. But I'm just getting started. Sometimes I beat myself up because I'm not where I want to be with how long I've been in the program, or I wanted to do this and I'm doing this instead, or whatever. Like, guys, 11 years ago, I was ready to die. And today I get to be a father, and I'm learning. I'm a terrible father, but I'm trying. I get to be a friend. Jason talked about the meaningful connections. My whole life, I was disconnected from you, from God, from myself. And the crazy thing about ego, Chuck C. talks about it, is that conscious separation from God, right? Is I've been looking for God my whole life and didn't know it. That unconditional love, and I found it. So you're going to meet these new friends in your own community. Near you, alcoholics are dying helplessly, like people in a sinking ship. If you live in a large place, there are hundreds, high and low, rich and poor. These are the future fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous. Among them, you will make lifelong friends. You will be bound to them with new and wonderful ties, for you will escape disaster together, and you will commence, shoulder to shoulder, your common journey. You will know what it means to give yourself that others may survive and rediscover life. You will learn the full meaning of love thy neighbor as thyself. And I want to share a couple of things, and I'll finish with one of my favorite places in the book here, but customize it to my own story because I'm selfish, right? When I first got to, I'm also a product of what Friend of Bill's recovery houses have done for many people. And when I first got there, there was first of all, when I got out of treatment, I went to a state-funded place. I didn't have insurance. I was homeless at 23 years old, couldn't stay out of jail. Like, I had nothing, nobody, no phone, no money, no nothing. And So when I was getting to my end of my stay at the treatment center, they told me that I needed to just jump on Google and try to figure out where I was going to go. So it was like, put me at a crossroads of like, do I go back to what I've always done and I know what that's like, right? And I've had a bunch of stuff that I don't necessarily have the time to share where God slowly started showing himself in my life. And so anyways, I Googled and I'm calling all these places and I didn't have any money or nothing. And everybody was like, oh, you need X amount of dollars or you need this and that or you don't qualify or our beds are full. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm going back to the streets until I called this one last place with a really, really simple website. And a man answered and said, friend of Bill's. And I told him what was going on and what I had. And he said, come on. And so I show up there in Hendersonville on Evergreen Circle. And I knock on the door and this guy opens the door, real heavy set dude. He's wearing camo Crocs, camo shorts, camo tank top, camo hat. And he's like, I'm Chase, I'm the manager. And I'm like, fuck, what have I done, And so Chase wasn't the manager. He had been there 2 weeks. And my very first sponsor asked me what these 12 steps were about. And I told him it was about not drinking. And he said, no, try again. And he explained to me that the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous were about relationships with God, myself, and other people. And so I believe that this program and Chase enabled me to learn how to have a relationship with God, myself, and other people, because God showed himself through him to help me reconnect with me and then allowed me to be of service to other people. Me and Chase, these rooms are a revolving door. Recovery houses are even more of a revolving door. People come and go left and right. It's very rare that you spend a long time in a house with someone like that, but even more rare that you share a room with somebody for an extended period of time like that. Because when the better rooms open up, you're moving. You know what I'm saying? And we were in the dungeon, baby. So me and Chase, we shared a room in that house for over a year together, and we stayed up talking about everything from war stories and women and intimacy and to God and recovery and step work and service work and building relationships with people in Alcoholics Anonymous. And me and Chase started praying together. And right after there was about 8 of us who got sober together in that house. There's only 2 of us still sober today. 2 or 3 of us have died. A couple of them have lost their kids again. But after we all celebrated about a year, Chase got a really good job as a maintenance man in an apartment complex. And he stopped everything as soon as he moved out of the house. And he didn't last 2 weeks, and they found him with a needle in his arm in an apartment complex. And I'm the one that got the call. And I'm the one that got to call his family. But I also got to be of service and show up at his funeral and speak about what a real friend is. At the end of that service, his mom came up to us and said, guys, I don't know or how this program works, but I know that the year my son did it, I had my son back for the first time in my life. And the moment that he quit, he didn't last 2 weeks. And guys, I know people die from this shit. I've seen it my whole life. I've been to more funerals than most of us probably have. I'm sure we all have been to plenty, right? But that hit different. Because my whole life when people died and things, like I was just a part of the mess. I numbed, I showed up fucked up. I wasn't able to be a part of, to experience grief, to process that, to be there for my friends or family. And this one was different because it was the first, outside of my sponsor, the first healthy relationship that I'd ever had with another man, another human in my entire life, and he was gone. And he had the same problem that I did, and we had the same solution. And so it scared the shit out of me that if I stopped doing, and people make fun of me still today. You go to all these meetings, you service work, you go to assemblies, you do all this stuff. Guys, I don't pick and choose what I do in Alcoholics Anonymous because I've watched too many people die who do that shit. I also watch people have a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, skip the most important part, and practice principles in all their affairs, and they relapse every time. If we're not carrying the message of Alcoholics Anonymous in these rooms, what the fuck are we doing? Because there are people dying that walk in these rooms every single day. And that's why when people ask me to speak, I say yes. Because AA didn't say no to me. BJ didn't say no to me. You guys didn't say no to me. I've stepped on your toes sober, and you guys still don't say no to me. 2 more things, and I'll wrap it up. 449 Joe, 449 used to be acceptance in the old editions of the big book, and Now it's 417 or whatever, and not that that's important. But Joe was super impactful. I sat myself with the winners when I got here because I got sick of being called out for living in the halfway house. And so I started sitting with the old timers just to not be called out, not because I wanted to hang with them. We're people who do not mix, okay? You golf and all this other stuff, and I do dope. But Joe was really impactful, and I hung out with a lot of those old timers, Marty and Dave and whatever, and Joe got really sick. And when Joe got sick, a couple of us, because I sit with the winners, showed me how to be of service and show up for my brothers in Alcoholics Anonymous. And so we went to Joe's last meeting on his deathbed. And we had a meeting on acceptance, and there were 5 of us there, and we got around, and Joe shared last. And Joe said, and I'm going to butcher it because I don't remember it, but he said something along the lines of when I was beaten by alcoholism, I hit my knees and I said, God help me, and AA showed up for me. He said, the last couple of days I've been on this deathbed knowing that I was gone and I was absolutely defeated. And I said, God help me. And he said, here you guys are. That's Alcoholics Anonymous to me. So I'm going to go back to BJ and then we'll wrap it up. I lost my damn place in this damn book. I'm sorry, guys. Here it is. So BJ, those of you who know him, like to have really, really long house meetings. I'll be done before that, Mark. BJ would have 3-hour house meetings, and the only way you could miss those house meetings is if you were a worker dead. So I worked every fucking Friday. Okay? Every Friday. Well, BJ got real sick. I don't know the timeline anymore, but BJ got real sick, and me and the guys that I got sober with, some of them were still sober, some of them were not. We're still friends, we're brothers. And we decided to go surprise BJ out in Lebanon at his house after a meeting one night. And when we showed up, he was walking out to leave. He just got done with a 3-hour meeting, And we surprised him. And we went back in the house, and we had the best 3-hour meeting that I probably ever had with BJ Booth. And one of the things that I remember him saying, and I'll butcher this too, is he said, we got to give up all of our wants and desires when we come into Alcoholics Anonymous so God can give us all of our hopes and dreams. And BJ got better, a little better. And then about a year later, BJ got sick again, and we got the call that BJ probably wouldn't make it through the night. And so me and Marshall, and a lot of people went and saw BJ, but me and Marshall went together. And he was just smiling, and he used to tell this stupid-ass story, this dude who jumped out of an airplane and his chute stopped working and his family was down watching him, and he knew he was going to die, so he just fell and closed his eyes and just died peacefully. And I'm like, BJ, you're crazy, bro. But I got to experience BJ have that same experience, smiling, happy, to the point. And Kathy, you may remember this. I at one point said, BJ, it's okay to be sad. And he was like, nah, I've lived the last 20 whatever years he was sober in overtime. He said, I should have been dead long before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. And he said over and over, he probably said it 10 or 15 times while we were there, I've lived a good life because I didn't stop helping people. And you can live a good life too if you don't stop helping people. And that's why I'm so big on carrying the message, because that's the most important part of this fucking program. I am responsible. There's a difference in membership and fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. I get it. You have a desire, great, fantastic. I didn't have a desire, okay? Because I couldn't imagine my life with or without alcohol. So I'm going to wrap up with this, and again, I'm going to modify it. It's one of the stories out of the back of the book. It's called Keys to the Kingdom. The last 11 years of my life have been rich and meaningful. I have had my share of problems, heartaches, and disappointments because that is life. But I also have known a great deal of joy and a peace that is the handmaiden of inner freedom. I have a wealth of friends, and with my AA friends, an unusual quality of fellowship. For to these people I am truly related, first through mutual pain and despair, and later through mutual objectives and a newfound faith and hope. And as the years go by, working together, sharing our experiences with one another, and also sharing a mutual trust, understanding, and love without strings and obligation, we acquire relationships that are unique and priceless. There's no more loneliness with that awful ache so deep in the heart of every alcoholic that nothing before could ever reach it. That ache is gone and never need return again. Now there is a sense of belonging, of being wanted and needed and loved. In return for a bottle and a hangover, we've been given the keys to the kingdom. Thank you.